Reports.
Monday's meeting is the two sides' first official summit since Brexit. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is meeting with top EU officials, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. British media is reporting
Ireland jail through a hole behind a toilet. FBI Special Agent Jonathan Trapp. Ireland jail through a hole behind a toilet. FBI Special Agent Jonathan Trapp said on Sunday that he believes members of the public may be aiding the men, many of whom face aggravated assault charges, domestic abuse battery, and murder. An audit of the jail by the Department of Corrections will be done by the end of the week. This is AP News. The WNBA is investigating racial slurs by fans made at Angel Reese during Chicago's game at Indiana. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
The WNBA is investigating racial comments directed toward Angel Reese by fans during the Chicago Sky's loss to the Fever at Indiana on Saturday, according to a person familiar with the situation. The person spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity because the league had not yet publicly identified who the taunts were directed toward or who made the allegation. The league says, quote, the WNBA strongly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination in all forms. They have no place in our league or in society. The league also says it is looking into the matter. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
More severe storms are expected to hit the central U.S. this week, following more than 24 weather-related deaths. The National Weather Service says states like Kentucky and Missouri should be prepared for the risk of thunderstorms.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Mostly cloudy skies here for today with a high in the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 48. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, high 59 degrees. Wednesday, another chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 56. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 46.
You've always wanted to drive a Porsche. What are you waiting for? Find your new Porsche at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our selection of pre-tariff cars ready for immediate delivery, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $9.99 a month for 39 months. Shop electric Porsche models and more by visiting the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $8,999 to signing. Excludes tax, title, license, and doc fee. No security deposit required. Expires 6/2/25.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students. Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the May 19th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. Our Credo Mobile text and phone line is 773-763-9278. Give us a call there. Text us there as well. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. You can also email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Substack is also a spot where you can find me. Catch us at all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, short version and long versions, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, which is our digital platform. And that's a great space and place to go to send out things to people in your life. Check this out, progressives.
said that Donald Trump has a contagious spirit, and that is one of the reasons that we stepped out of the white evangelical church, is because we could tell that his contamination was filtering into the church. So I want to read these verses to you. This is out of Mark 7. It says, it's what comes out of a person that pollutes: obscenities, lusts, thefts, murders, adulteries, greed, depravity, deceptive dealings, carousing, mean looks, slander, arrogance, foolishness. All these are vomit from the heart. There is the source of your pollution. So it absolutely became clear to us as time went on, 2016 and going forward, that those things were becoming more and more, I guess you would say, accepted in the church, if not actually mimicked, which a lot of these abuses and stuff were mimicked. If you were online at all during that time, I could not believe some of the bullying, some of even the obscenities that were coming out from people who were claiming to follow Christ. So this is a problem when you make an idol out of somebody that has this kind of wickedness, that has himself a contaminated heart, and then you make an idol out of him and you start basically worshiping him, then those attributes are going to they're going to infiltrate. That is the contamination that the Bible talks about, and that is what we noticed, and that is why we stepped out of the white evangelical church when it became overtaken by Trumpism.
And that's what a lot of people need to hear. This is not a sermon. This is not a Bible class. It is an example, sort of a breaking down of things that more people who have sort of bent themselves into a pretzel about the dude in the White House from a Christian national standpoint need to be aware of. I got some more that'll come to you later in the show. And speaking of that, our guests today include Audra Moran, CEO of the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. Should be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. And political strategist Mike Nellis will probably be with us in the 7:30 hour. We'll be taking your calls today for sure. In the 6:30 hour to 7, we'll try to get as many of your calls in as possible. So make sure you ring us up and send us a text as well. But for now... Oh, and this kind of ties into one of our Choose Views stories. Weather today, if you're in the Chicagoland area, it's chillier than normal. It's probably 10 degrees lower than it should be right now. So just before you head out, if you're heading out, grab a windbreaker. Grab a jacket or something because it's a little chilly out, just to be safe. And probably true for those of us in the upper Midwest. But let's make our way over to Choose Views News on this Monday, May 19th, 2025. The deadly storms did ravage several states over the weekend. More than 24 people were killed and dozens more injured across Missouri, Kentucky, and Virginia after violent storms barreled through several states last Friday, unleashing powerful tornadoes. The death toll could keep rising. Unfortunately, officials warned over the weekend as they assessed the damage. The devastation is truly heartbreaking, according to the mayor of St. Louis in a news conference. It's been especially brutal tornado season in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic regions. We're just a few weeks earlier this year, similar storms that caused a deadly devastation. Bosses say they are done being nice. Now, this one I found a little bit curious. In today's economy, once friendly executives are putting more pressure on employees to work harder and complain less. The tone shift coincides with the changing power dynamic, according to the Wall Street Journal, as companies purge managers at an accelerated rate. One New York University professor blames a growing disconnect between employees and executives, and also the influences of artificial intelligence. Factories are having a staffing problem. What if you built a factory and no one showed up to work there? For all the years of bipartisan promises to bring more manufacturing jobs to the United States, the country currently has nearly 500,000 unfilled manufacturing positions. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and 65% of manufacturing firms say staff recruitment and retention is the biggest challenge that they're facing right now. Among the issues, a lack of properly skilled workers, strict decree requirements for jobs, and outdated notions of what a factory should look like. And the proper skilled workers is when I first went through this, I thought this is a training issue. And going back to the 80s, when we were promised that training and all these things would be a benefit of technology, it didn't happen. So as much as we have a conversation about jobs being shipped, quote, overseas, it's because we didn't train enough of our workers. That's a fact. All right, speaking of overseas and the global economy, fully U.S.-made car is not feasible. Much like Apple's iPhone, a 100% U.S.-made car is a good idea in theory, but in reality it's complicated and prohibitively costly, according to CNBC's research. Vehicles have, on average, 20,000 components when fully disassembled, per the S&P Global Mobility Group. And parts come from 50 to 120 companies. And U.S.-sourced raw materials and chips would involve opening new plants and mines, likely taking at least a decade. One expert estimates the extra cost to produce a standard $48,000 vehicle would potentially be $20,000. So there's a push for more factories, but let's make sure that they can be built in an equitable period of time. State Farm is given a go-ahead to raise their hikes of their rates in California. As you guys know, we watched parts of Southern California suffer from the terrible storms and fires that took place earlier this year. California now will allow State Farm to temporarily charge homeowners an extra 17% for their policies in the wake of January's devastating wildfires. Uber is offering less expensive rides. Well, we'll see how this plays out. Uber is courting cost-conscious consumers with a shared fixed route rides and expanded membership passes that help users lock in lower fares. The new offerings come a week after Uber reported disappointing revenue growth for the first quarter of 2025 and signals an effort for the company to widen its user base. And let's see, last but not least, small businesses not feeling the tariff relief. The latest reprieve on China's import duties has provided only limited relief to small businesses. The fact that tariffs remain high even after the Trump administration slashed them last week, and the uncertainty around ongoing negotiations has left the firms in a bind. They're still paying a total of 40% tariffs on goods from China, according to Bloomberg Economics, and the 90-day window on trade talks doesn't give them enough time to make and receive new orders or arrange storage, customs, and deliveries. So I saw something, Devin, that really, I forgot who sent this to me, but it was an example of how the tariff conversation and how it's being handled from the administration isn't necessarily on the up and up. And basically, it was someone took a snapshot of pricing of certain products a few weeks ago, actually a couple months ago, going back to the beginning of the year, and then what those prices are now. And they actually, it showed it showed those the printing stamps that go on certain items that are on racks. Like if you go buy razors, there's that UPC code item that's got the price of it $9.99 for 5 razors or whatever, and it showed going back to the earlier part of the year the price, and then showed it as of this past week, and it was like double in some cases. So prices haven't gone down, but yeah, guys, there you go. Start of the show. Glad we're with you. Glad you're with us. We'll take a quick break. The Credo mobile and text line is 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the summer of 1909 in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, the workers of the Pressed Steel Car Company went on strike due to missing wages. 5,000 workers, mostly immigrants from Eastern European countries, walked out. They protested a corrupt payment system called pooling. The workers also claimed their wives and daughters were sexually assaulted in order to repay debts accumulated for food and housing. On average, one worker would die every day from the poor safety conditions. The workers received solidarity from the International Workers of the World, Standard Steel Car Company of Butler, and the railway trainmen and streetcar motormen who refused to haul scab workers into the city. The strike culminated in a bloody confrontation resulting in the deaths of at least 12 workers and one deputy sheriff, with many more workers injured. This led to a settlement which gave workers increased wages at a posted pay rate and ended the abuses of the company's housing practices. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Welcome back, Progressives. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Bobby Kogan, Senior Director of Federal Budget Policy at the Center for American Progress. Shannon Parker, CEO of at Brave Space Alliance, and immigration attorney David Leopold. Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. Central on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. That's Joan Esposito. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by social media influencer and a candidate for Congress, Kat Abazela, and positivity expert Jen Zanotti with some motivational Monday advice. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Central here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow on the show, I'll be talking to Karen Freeman Wilson of the Chicago Urban League and Chicago Musical Pathways Initiative Director James Hall with Olivia Doolin, a Latina student musician, and Kristen Crowell, Executive Director of Fair Share America, will be talking about the Republican tax and budget cutting. That's the big conversation point right now. All right, so I think that there's a couple of ways of leaning into this next very important conversation, and we heard yesterday that President Biden was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive form of prostate cancer that, from what I've read, is treatable. Not going to try to be a doctor and understand the medical treatments that will come his way. But this is my thought, and I thought about this a lot yesterday, and there's a couple things. One of them is, as progressives, what we cannot do is allow ourselves to do anything other than send good vibe, good energy, prayers, whatever is in your, is your thing, to President Biden, Mrs. Biden, and their family. If there's a family that's been through a lot of health and craziness in that man's lifetime, it's him. And I've seen a lot of things on social media and on the internet and things that I read and watched about his strength and so forth and so on, which he has. It's because he's unfortunately seen a lot. But the thing I want to say is, that we have to be the ones to send the good vibe to anybody that is stricken with a medical condition like this, particularly the big C and cancer. So do our part there, and I know that we will. At the same time, don't get caught up in the distractions of what other people who might, because this is I thought about this a lot yesterday afternoon, believe me, and how I wanted to approach it today and as we go forward. There are going to be people that are going to say things about President Biden's diagnosis that are going to try to link it to his overall health and all the conversations around if he should have stepped out of the race earlier. All of that's going to come down. It's already happened. And on the heels of this book by Jake Tapper, we know what the conversations are going to be. So here's what I would say is my advice don't buy into that. Obviously, don't get caught into that. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Stand firm about one thing, primarily one thing, and that's the health of former President Biden. That he recovers from this and that he is able to live in a healthy way going forward. And that we send, as I said, all the energy and positivity to that family as possible. They are an example of a family that's dealt with tragedy, that's dealt with a variety of issues, from health to public opinion to death to legal matters, and the list goes on. And I think that it's important for us to recognize that that's the position that we want to take in terms of finding our better angels and making it clear that we are not going to get sucked into this vortex of garbage. It's easy to do because there'll be a lot of it out there, and there'll be the naysayers. So if you're going to go down a rabbit hole, go down the rabbit hole of praise for another human being that served our country for a long, long time in the best way he possibly could, and that he's going to be with us for some years to come. That's what we would want, that good energy and those prayers and those good vibes to bring us as a result. Nothing other than that. There have been some disgusting things that have been posted already because, unfortunately, human nature it's the B word. I didn't want to say it on the air, but human nature can be a you-know-what. Mayor Johnson said it a few weeks ago at our anniversary event up in Max and Benny's. We get to reclaim humanity. It's on us to do that. And this is one of those moments where you don't want to waste one bit of typing on your phone, typing on your computer, whatever, to somebody that's out there throwing garbage. You want to spend your energy sending positive energy out. And I would not be surprised if on today's show, on Patty's show, Jen Zanotti will talk about this in terms of the power of energy, good energy being put out into the universe rather than negative energy. She does or she doesn't. I don't want to put words in Jen's mouth, but Patty may have something to say about that conversation because I know how Patty rolls. To that end, that's what I'm hoping you guys, all of us across the country, will do, is to send the good energy to the Biden family and not get sucked into the vortex of talking, getting into these on social media battles with people who may want to trash him, try to trash PhD Dr. Joe Biden, by the way, Donald Trump Jr., in case y'all saw what he had to say. And the list goes on. Just do good right now. And let me be, I thought about this as well and wanted to make sure from my notes I address this. I know that people may say, yeah, there are people that are diagnosed with cancer every day all over the planet. What? We get that. But he's our former president and a 50-year servant to this country, if not the world. So I know that there are those of us who have had cancer. We have family members, we have friends, loved ones, and the list goes on. Business colleagues. It's still, the time is for us to stand up and stand strong and be supportive of a person who's been nothing but a servant to this country and the world as a global citizen. That's what you can do right now, is push back on the garbage and create a sense of energy around this family and our country, frankly. And many people may think differently about this, but if Donald Trump had been diagnosed, I'd be equally in the mindset of we have to send that good vibe to him to recover, because none of us want that to be a negative vibe that we come back on us. And I guess that's the position I'll take. And some may agree, some may disagree, but I know that's where I stand. And I think that it's good for us to do that, because then we don't get caught in that craziness. I just don't want to see any of you guys take up good time of yours on this. Okay? So just be mindful of that. Please be mindful of that for the family, for the country, and for yourself. The other thing I'm going to say to this conversation is, and I mentioned this a brief last week. Today we hopefully will have on the CEO of a very important organization to talk about ovarian cancer. I went back and forth in my own brain. You can see I'm still trying to say this the right way. Please, please, please go see your doctor, y'all. And I know that some of this is built off of having the capacity to pay for it, i.e. health insurance or medical benefits. I get that. I truly do. But doggone it, y'all, go see your doctors. We all have to do that. And, just take the time. Press pause today, anywhere in the country that you are, and just say, okay, do I need to get in and see my doctor? Male or female, young or old, and no matter what your culture is and community. If you have the capacity through whatever means, i.e. insurance, to go see your physician, go do that, y'all. Please go do that. I'm on the cusp of that myself right now. So I want you guys to take the time and pay yourself that favor, and make sure you get checked out and all the things that you are concerned that you don't know about. I know that's part of the challenge. Is that everything seems to be okay, Devin. I'm not going to go into the doctor and get any bad news. I mean, I know that that's human nature. And for those that you love, you want to make sure that you're getting those regular checkups. So, and that includes other things too, like, get your eyes checked, go to the dentist. Those are it's, part of medical care as well. My dentist shared this with me a few years ago about the amount of medical ailments that come from not proper dental care. And it was common sense, but it was shocking in some ways that the data on that in terms of how oral care can lead to so many other things that people don't know about. Because let's be honest, the thing that we use most often, certainly most of us do, is our mouths. I saw Devin about to lose it on that one. But, let's just be honest, that intake valve that we have called our mouth is critically important to us. So, get to the dentist as well. And, get to the eye doctor. And if you've got some, tight joints and bones, maybe go see a chiropractor or go see an orthopedic. But just if there's a message that I want to give to you guys this morning in that space is just take a little bit of time for yourself as best you can. Tell your employer I'm taking a sick day and go get checked out. Because I think it's the other reason that I paused and how I wanted to say this is stress is a killer, y'all. Stress causes stuff to happen that you don't know is coming. And so we are in a stressful time. We have been in for a stressful time, some more than others. So please, nobody get upset that I recognize that. Some of it's economic, some of it's health, and all the rest. Personal stresses from family. But stress causes some of the major issues that we have from a medical standpoint. I was just talking about, the dental piece. Grinding your teeth from stress causes an issue with your teeth. I mean, just that alone. Tired and weary eyes get rubbed too much causes a problem. And the list goes on. We already know the internal stresses and what they can produce. So, again, I said this to kind of give myself a little bit of cover. I'm not trying to be a physician this morning. I'm just this dude that you guys listen to Monday through Friday that's saying, please, please, please find out when you can try to get in to see your physician or whatever you got to do and get checked out because it's important to you and to your family. So let's take a quick break, Devin. All right, guys, the Credo Mobile text line and phone line is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting. Thanks to the internet and the thousands of medical sites of all kinds, there has never been more information available to health consumers. But Dr. Nancy Snyderman, longtime medical expert for ABC and NBC TV, says sometimes there's no substitute for a medical professional.
I'm a big believer in using the web when needed, not only as a phenomenal source of support in chat rooms and support groups, but also as a way of finding information. But then you still have to have a physical body, someone in the medical system who's going to be your advocate. Because on a good day, you just want someone to check in with. But on a bad day, and there always will be for somebody, you have to have a pit bull who's going to fight for you. We all need advocates. Even those of us who are doctors, when we get sick, we need someone who will speak up for us.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Mostly cloudy skies here for today with a high in the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 48. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, high 59 degrees. Wednesday, another chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 56. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 46.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose View. 773-763-9278 is the Credo mobile phone and text line. So there's been there've been lots of commentary this past week about the things that are happening and some of the fears and concerns that people have. So let me talk about a few things that I think are really important right in this moment from things that have taken place in the last couple of days. I've said this last week. We had a clip from New York AG Letitia James, and she talked about the importance of the courts. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is pay attention to court rulings. And that, to her point, that's one of the backbones that we have right now, one of the points of stability that we have right now. And I think that we're seeing, to her point, and I've been paying attention to it as well, but we're seeing that the courts are holding, in many ways, to the best of their ability in this crazy time. So there's a couple updates, a couple things I want you guys to be mindful and to be aware of. And one of them is the Supreme Court did extend the block on Trump's deportation bid under the Alien Enemies Act. And this gets into that conversation around due process. But they did extend the deportation or the block on that. And the court emphasized, and I'll read this to you as best I can, that the men from whom the Trump administration has labeled alien enemies are entitled to more due process than the administration has so far provided. That means advance notice of their deportations and a meaningful opportunity to challenge the deportations in court. That's what the justices wrote in an unsigned opinion. In particular, the justices faulted the administration for its attempt last month to carry out swift deportations just one day after providing a bare-bones deportation notice to the detainees. The Supreme Court intervened at that time to stop these deportations, and their decision has furthered that extension, furthered that block, I should say. That's one area, and we have a clip that I thought would match up real well with this conversation around due process. And it speaks to what the Constitution says and how the Constitution lays it out pretty straightforward, unlike what the administration wants to believe it says. And we've got a clip from Lee McGowan talking about that.
So the new 27-year-old press secretary, Caroline with a K Levitt, just said this.
The folks that you mentioned have a right to have that legal opinion, but it is in disagreement with the legal opinion of this administration. This administration believes that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional.
So the administration believes that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional. Well, Caroline, I'm going to let you in on a secret. The administration can believe whatever they want, but that doesn't make it true. Baby, the 14th Amendment defines birthright citizenship. It says that anyone born in the United States is a citizen of the United States, and that is regardless of their parents' citizenship or their immigration status. It says if you were born in America, you are an American citizen and citizen of your state. The exact wording of the amendment, ratified on July 9th, 1868, is all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any laws which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or prosperity without due process of the law, nor deny any person within the jurisdiction the equal protections of the laws. There are 4 other sections in this amendment, and none of them change just because the administration believes they do. Birthright citizenship is literally in the Constitution, which makes it, wait for it, constitutional. Look, I'm not saying you guys aren't going to fight this with some outrageous arguments. I'm just saying that this isn't a particularly good one. It's actually a bit embarrassing. Bless your heart.
Lee McGowan, a politics girl. So why is that important? Because it is in the Constitution. It's not this is the thing that Caroline with the K tried to slip in. She tried to slip in essentially their opinion versus what's actually in the Constitution, Devin. And it's really kind of it's interesting to follow because they are glossing over what's there and trying to substantiate that by saying in our opinion. Okay, well, in my opinion, you're an idiot. You may not be, but in my opinion, and I'll put it this way, caveat, so I'm not name calling, based on your actions and based on what comes out of your mouth, you're a blankety blankety blank idiot based on your actions. So that's my opinion, but there's no legal document that would state that I have a ground to stand on that's factual other than maybe freedom of speech that I could say that. But that comes with a cost because I'm accusing, if I say your actions are, okay, but if I call you that gets into some murky waters. But my opinion doesn't have a doggone thing to do with what's actually in the Constitution. So neither does the White House's legal opinion. They can have an opinion about it. They can have a belief or a thought about it. But that for them to do anything about that, they have to act on it using the legal levers that are there, which would be to approach Congress with some crazy far out idea of trying to change the Constitution, but doing it legally. That in and of its, the Constitution is entitled to due process. And I mean that in the sense that if we're going to change the Constitution, there are steps, a process that we have to go through to change it. It's not based on Caroline with a K's Levitt's opinion or thought that their legal team at the White House has an opinion that they think the Constitution doesn't stand up in this particular scenario. So we have to be very, very vigilant about listening to what they try to just gloss through and gloss over. And this is a perfect example of that they want to use their opinion versus what's actually written. Now, many will say that, they don't give a darn, et cetera. We get that already. That's nothing new. But it doesn't change the fact that it's a responsibility of ours to lean into that and hold their feet to the fire when they make a statement like that we know is factually not right, not accurate, won't stand up in court. If they were to go to court to make the changes in the way in which they should, or go through Congress to try to make the changes, but that's not going to happen. So that's number one. The other thing that the courts have done, and again, I'm trying to, with the weekend, really pull together the things that are happening in the court systems and talk about that, early part of the weeks as we go forward. This one's kind of an interesting one. It's not so much what the courts have done, but it's what the Republicans have done, but not for good reason. And you guys may have seen this, that the Republicans blocked Trump's big, beautiful bill because it doesn't take away health care for enough people. In other words, they want to block this big, beautiful bill, which fell on its face, not because it's a bad bill, but 5 Republicans on the House Budget Committee blocked Trump's big, beautiful bill because it doesn't make deep enough cuts to throw more people off their health care. All right. Does it ever look like Mike Johnson needs an enema? Not to gross you guys out this early in the morning, but sometimes it looks like he needs an enema. There you go. My little bit of comedy for the day. Patty would be proud. 5 conservatives blocked the House Budget Committee from blocking Trump's big, beautiful bill. And the reason why isn't because they oppose cutting health, isn't because they oppose cutting health care and food for the American people, but they feel that the bill does not cut enough. Those 5 Republicans, Chip Roy of Texas, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Josh Breching of Oklahoma, Andrew Clyde of Georgia, and Lloyd Schmucker, boy, I could have some fun with that name, of Pennsylvania. Their reasoning is what matters. Okay? Their reasoning out of committee is what matters. They want to take more from people. They're demanding changes, arguing that the leaders didn't go far enough to cut federal spending. It's always about let's cut federal spending, let's cut federal spending, let's cut. It's boring as hell to hear this. And this is where, if there's a message, a clue, an idea that I'll throw out to Democrats as we talk about, as I said this last week, here's what we're going to do, here's why we're going to do it, and here's how it's going to impact you. That's got to be part of the conversation, the cadence of the message, in my observation, in my opinion. So to that end, Democratic leaders should be saying, we're here to block Republicans from cutting spending, because when we do that and we maintain spending, and in some cases increase it, it improves your lives in these, 3, 5, 7 ways. That's got to be part of the messaging as we go forward. We should be unyielding about that in terms of contacting our congressional leaders and our state leaders to let them know that those words, that type of messaging is critically important right now. Okay. But Republicans they want to cut. They want to cut from benefits that are going to be sustaining to help people go see the doctor and get those checkups. And the list goes on. But this is about, frankly, what Trump wants to give himself and to give others in his universe. Not the folks in Appalachia who voted for Trump. He's not giving you anything. He's not doing the things that a Joe Biden was doing and that a Kamala Harris was trying to do, which is provide you with support. They want, meaning Trump and the Republicans, to take things away. So Devin and I put together a clip that speaks to, this is about Trump and himself. This is about what he can get, not what he can provide for the American community.
He gets paid by companies and countries who want to avoid paying tariffs. We get stuck paying higher prices because of tariffs. He gets lower taxes for himself, his businesses, and fellow billionaires. We get fewer government services. He gets to hire unethical, unqualified individuals. We get questioned about our qualifications if we're a minority or a woman. He gets a $400 million plane. We get cutbacks at the FAA and increased danger and flying delays. He gets a $45 million military parade for his birthday. We get dramatic cuts to veterans' benefits. He gets to lie with impunity. We can now get fired for telling the truth. He gets billions from his crypto scam. We get a weaker dollar, downgraded credit rating, and prolonged higher interest rates. He gets away with all of his crimes. We can get sent to rot in jail in El Salvador without due process. He is for himself always and forever. Do you agree?
Yeah, but without a doubt, that is precisely what he is all about and where we are. America got downgraded. Our Moody's rating last Friday because of the government debt, primarily. And because of the impending change with the tax bill, or maybe better stated, more accurately stated, is keeping the current the taxes from 2017 in place, because now it's 2025 and they're set to expire. We got downgraded. It's plain and simple. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that and also about those of us who need to understand what has happened and what didn't happen when it comes to this 90-day pause. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
We can't just be, thinking about where we're going to move to. We gotta move into the mental state of fighting back, keeping our cool, keeping our calm, and hoping that Republicans grow a spine, because it's all on them. It's all on them right now. We had no say over these nominees to the cabinet posts, these loyalists that have been thrown into the positions without the necessary experience other than fealty to
bending the knee.
Bending the knee. So, But I've been trying.
I thought they were all upset about taking the knee.
Yeah,
weren't they?
They were.
They were
Yes, they were.
taking the knee.
Yeah, when Colin Kaepernick was taking the knee.
They were not taking the knee.
They were not too happy about that.
Okay, cool.
But I've been trying to, Scott, immerse myself in the positive, because we can't be mired down by everything we're seeing around us. We have to keep a positive.
Otherwise you will go cookie pants.
We'll go cookie pants.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives. Welcome back to Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile and text line. Make sure you go to credomobile.com, one of our great new partners. So let's grab a quick call. Looks like our friend Karen is from Chicago. Good morning, Karen. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Oh, my God. There's this idiot driving behind me that has MAGA and then Donald Trump giving the middle finger, like as a decal on the back of his. Oh, my God. These people, I just can't. Don't tell me it's not a cult, Richard.
I would never say that, because we know that it is. I'm not going to tell that lie.
Literally, yeah. And so let me just really quick just say, this weekend we did the Hands Across Chicago.
Yep.
It was phenomenal. It was such a great idea, great event, and I hope they do more of these. And we also were out. Some of the step head walkers were out. With standing alongside the postal workers over at the Forest Park Postal Distribution Center.
Right.
But they need more numbers out there. They need our help. So I'm going to try and organize a Zoom with one of the leaders of their group to try and rally some of the troops from our camp.
Let me know Let me know what I can do to help in that space. So keep me posted, and I can do whatever I can.
Absolutely. Definitely will. But, I just wanted to bring up a point of order, Richard, with Caroline Triple K, her opinion.
Okay.
You're picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. So, anyway. Sorry. So anyway, point of order. Yes. The White House legal, quote unquote, opinion, they can have their legal opinion, but the Supreme Court has the final say. Mm-hmm. And so that is the big, I think that is the thing that needs to be said here. It's like they can have whatever opinion they want. Any case can be brought before the Supreme Court, and they're going to have different legal experts and attorneys arguing their legal opinion based off of their interpretation of the Constitution, but the buck stops with the Supreme Court.
And great point, Karen. And listen, the Supreme, they are saying, one, we have an opinion, and we think our opinion is more important than the Constitution and the Supreme Court. Sorry, Caroline, with the Triple K Levitt. That was good. I got that on the first go. Okay, I listened. I do like that. But yeah, this is and this is why I keep going back and will continue to do this as much as I can each week, is talking about, the courts are there, and they are, to what AG Letitia James said, they're holding because it's not about opinion; it's about what's written law, whether it be on a state level, on a district level, federal level, or on the Supreme Court level. And so that's why we have to be, when we talk about not getting distracted by all the Trump stuff. We have to be paying attention to what's happening with the courts, because the courts are actually an opportunity, a tool for us to say, okay, great, let's continue down this path. So that's why I keep saying, don't get distracted by the damn plane and the memes and all that. More important stuff is what's happening in the courts.
Right, and also, let's not forget, I mean, whatever their opinion is, Donald Trump is on record saying that he wants to do away with the Constitution.
Yep.
So, I mean, don't act like, you're basing your opinion off of the Constitution, the one that Donald Trump and the Republicans have been wiping their rear ends with for the last several decades. And
Karen, that's another great point. I go back to when Donald Trump was, quote, sworn in January at the inauguration. That whole thing about not putting his hand on the Bible, I think that ties into not wanting to follow what's in the Constitution and what's important. That we recognize that, along with define the Supreme Court. We know that we're saying what we know, which is that they are there to defy, not to comply and go along. We know that. But I think, and I like the way that you position that in terms of it, it's not your opinion that the Supreme Court gives a darn about. What they care about, the Supreme Court, is the Constitution and what they've made constitutionally required.
That's right.
Yeah, good point.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, thank you for taking my call. You have a wonderful Monday.
You too. Talk to you soon. We'll see you on Friday, probably.
Talk to you soon. Friday. Yep.
Friday, all right.
I'll be here.
Talk to you then. Bye now.
I'll be there. Okay, bye.
All right, Dev. I want to play this other clip that's really kind of getting into what I was saying before Karen called, and that is the excuse me, guys. What really has happened with this adjustment in tariffs. I read a quick piece earlier about the impact of the tariff pause isn't going to really help small businesses. Let me see if I can go back to this real quickly. Sorry, guys, I should have had this ready, but, things move around on the desk. This is the piece. Small business not feeling tariff relief. The latest reprieve on China import duties has provided only limited relief to small businesses. So Devin and I put together a quick clip from Stephanie Rule that talks about this. It was late last week, but it's going to be relevant because of this sort of 90-day pause. And I want you guys to hear this, and we'll talk about it on the backside.
Let's level set just for a moment. Okay. President Trump has argued for years that the United States has been taken advantage of. And just over a month ago, he launched a trade war that caused global economic panic. Well, tonight, all of us are breathing a huge sigh of relief that he took his foot off the gas. But let's make no mistake. He is the person who brought us to the brink. So what exactly happened today? As economist Justin Wolfers puts it, two things are true. One, U.S. trade policy and our macroeconomic prospects are much better today than they were yesterday. And number two, U.S. trade policy and our macroeconomic prospects are much worse today than they were Inauguration Day. Now, we should expect a massive shipping surge from U.S. companies that can afford to front-load inventory before this new 90-day pause runs out. But the remaining tariff cost will still be passed on to consumers, especially from smaller businesses with smaller margins that cannot afford to eat that cost. Now, today, it is a good day for business in China and the United States, and it is certainly a great day for markets. But the head-scratcher is President Donald John Trump. Who he is and what exactly he wants. Now, the argument that these tariffs were going to pay down the deficit and pay for the tax cuts, I guess that is clearly not happening. Donald Trump's long-held beliefs that sweeping tariffs would reinvent U.S. manufacturing and reshape the global economy in a way that would make America great again, well, that is clearly off the table. Not to mention inflation. It was one of the biggest drivers that helped Trump return to the Oval Office. And 30% tariffs and 10% around the world are still inflationary. So what exactly changed? Besides a jet from Qatar, promises for hotel developments, deals for Trump family documentaries, and some massive investments by foreign companies and entities in the president's crypto empire, from the sources that I speak to, it is unclear how any of this has made America great again.
So the relevance here is to what Stephanie talked about earlier in the early part of that clip, is this supply chain concern and conversation. So let me just bring it to you guys this way. The one thing that's certain to tank Trump is coming soon. And what is that? When you have, and this is where, and Stephanie's really been on this for a while, and I, in my own little way, have also, colleges and universities band together, create that your own consensus, your own bond, your own group to fight back against the Trump administration when they decide to come after you. I've said this about governors and the Democratic Governors Association, and I've got my list of the lieutenant governors that we're going to roll out to you guys in the next couple of days. But also businesses, they've got to be able to stop and say, hey, wait a minute, our customers matter more than this punk in the White House. And for those of you who don't like me calling names, this guy that's acting like a punk in the White House. So there. But listen to this. Walmart, the world's largest retailer, says Trump's tariffs are too high, and it will have to, what? Raise prices because of them. Scott Bessent was caught saying that that's true. Given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, the higher tariffs will result in higher prices. That comes from Walmart CEO Doug McMillon. Walmart is the largest retailer in the United States. It has a huge buying power and supply chain options. If Walmart can't keep prices down, don't count on anyone else doing so. So there you go. This is what's critically important in this conversation is that, there's other companies like Mattel that makes toys said it would raise prices because of the Trump tariffs. Trump, appearing to regard Mattel as a nation, said they're the only country I've heard that's done such a thing, and they've threatened to levy 100% tariff on it. Why? Because they're telling the truth. They're telling the truth. And that truth-telling has to happen in this moment. And I've said this, and I'll say it again, and we're going to say it again and again. Colleges have to have that pact. Governors, lieutenant governors, AGs, and businesses. Stephanie's been talking about it. I've been talking about it in my way. They have to bond together. They have to speak out. When the largest retailer, world's largest retailer, says that, if you didn't take notice, then you darn should take notice of that. Because we know what Walmart delivers, and you can love or hate Walmart or be in the middle, but we know their impact on our economy based on the number of people that use Walmart for so many ways of purchasing different goods and services, goods and different items, and some services. Devin, let's take a break, fella. How about that? 773-763-9278. At the top of the hour, when we come back, we'll have one of our guests with us. Monday morning, y'all. Thank you for being with us. We'll be right back.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. That's 800-365-6303.
Give your liver the support it needs with Active Liver. Go to newnordicusa.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New you, new Nordic.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Israel's military on Monday issued an evacuation order for residents of Gaza's second largest city, Khan Yunis, and nearby towns, saying the entire area would be considered a dangerous combat zone. AP's Charles de Ledesma reports on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to resume aid to the Strip.
In a video statement posted on social media, Benjamin Netanyahu said Jerusalem's allies had voiced concern about images of hunger, and he says they told him that With that, we will not be able to support you. Israel will allow a limited amount of humanitarian aid into Gaza, even as its extensive new ground operations are underway. The announcement comes after a nearly 3-month blockade and warnings by global experts of famine in the battered enclave. In early March, Israel cut off all food, medicine and other supplies in the territory of over 2 million people. A UN official says around 20 aid trucks carrying mostly food are expected to go into the Gaza Strip on Monday. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Russian authorities on Monday outlawed Amnesty International as an undesirable organization, meaning the international human rights group must stop any work in Russia. It also subjects those who cooperate with it or support it to prosecution. The Prosecutor General's office accused the group of running Russophobic projects and activities aimed at Russia's political and economic isolation. President Trump is set to hold separate phone calls on Monday with Russian leader Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump expressed hopes for a productive day Monday and a ceasefire in a social media post over the weekend. His efforts will also include calls to NATO leaders. Pro-European Union candidate Nicu Jordan won Romania's presidential runoff on Sunday against George Simion, a hard-right nationalist who modeled his campaign after Trump. The election was held months after the previous election was cancelled and had plunged Romania into its worst political crisis in decades. This is AP News. Turbulent waters may have contributed to a Mexican tall ship's crash into the Brooklyn Bridge.
A Mexican Navy sailing ship on a goodwill tour hit the Brooklyn Bridge, killing 2 sailors Saturday night and injuring scores more who were left dangling by harness from the ship's 3 masts, which toppled over on impact. NYPD Special Ops Chief Wilson Arambola says the ship had just left a Manhattan pier and was supposed to have been headed out to sea, not toward the bridge.
The captain that was maneuvering the ship lost power of the ship, and the current mechanical function caused the ship to go right into the pillar of the bridge.
Sydney Nidell saw it happen.
The boat kind of just was going past the bridge, and you just saw the top of it snap off, and it just kept on snapping.
Officials say the 142-year-old bridge was spared major damage.
I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Mostly cloudy skies here for today with a high in the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 48. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, high 59 degrees. Wednesday, another chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 56. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 46.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the second hour of Choose Views here on Monday, May 19th, 2025. Thanks for being with us this morning. Hope everyone is doing well, staying safe, and if you're getting out and about, that you went back to the closet and grabbed a windbreaker. I always like saying that, Devin, windbreaker, or a jacket, or a pullover. You know, windbreakers are like a thing from the past, so nobody really says that next time. I've got my whatever jacket. I've got my whatever, pullover, blah, blah, blah. We talked about President Biden and the diagnosis with prostate cancer. and what that means to him and his family, and to the nation, frankly, the world, because of his service. Cancer is something that we have 1 degree of separation with that. We know someone in our family or our friends, our business colleagues that have been diagnosed with some form of. Ovarian cancer is a area that is a significantly large area of cancer for women. And with us this morning is the president and CEO of the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance, Audra Moran. Good morning, Audra. If I may call you Audra, good morning, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Hi, how are you? And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honored to have you with us this morning. I know that you have been very, very busy these past few years, and particularly when it comes to the work that you do, when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to corporate sponsorship and all that. But more importantly, awareness. That is the word. When we have the word, when we say the big C in terms of cancer, the big A is awareness, and the other one would probably be screening. But if you could, and again, thank you so much for being with us, and I can already tell you we're going to ask you now to have you back, because this is a conversation that I think we need to continue to highlight in our current climate. But if you could, Audra, take a moment and tell us a little bit about your background, and tell us a little bit more about OCRA, the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance.
Absolutely. Well, Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance is the largest organization in the world fighting ovarian cancer, as well as other gynecologic cancers. Ovarian, unfortunately, there is no early detection test for ovarian cancer. So, we really focus on, like you talked about, awareness. That's so important, because we focus on prevention. We talk about knowing your risk and your family history. There are some genetic tests that you can do. So this is the kind of work we do. But we also fund science, and that's really how we're going to solve this problem, obviously. Any cancer. And we're right now, we've committed up to, over the years, $128 million to scientists around the world who are fighting ovarian cancer. And we've helped raise $3.8 billion in federal funds for that. And, we just think it's so important. That's the only way this problem is going to go away. Ovarian cancer is the 5th leading cancer cause in women, and it's the deadliest of the gynecologic cancers. So we really need a change here. We really need to make something happen.
So let me ask you this question. You said there's no early detection, and one of the things that I was talking about earlier with President Biden is screening, and I said to everybody, just go to the doctor. We know that
yes.
And I know you're a big advocate of this, and everything that I've read and followed on you is get to the doctor, y'all. Get out there, go see the physician. And we know that we all are prone to not getting the bad news, but we have. It's one of my listeners sent a text in that the test is less expensive than the actual condition. But why is there no early detection when it comes to ovarian cancer, or at least to the extent that we know it?
It's really been a really tough nut to crack. Ovarian cancer is not one cancer. It's actually very heterogeneous. There's a lot of different types of ovarian, and what they've found in recent years is it really actually starts in the fallopian tubes, or at least most of it. So it's very internal, very hard to detect, and symptoms don't usually start until it spreads. And obviously that's why the outcomes are worse, and that's why screening is just so difficult. There was actually a really large screening test where they were able to detect the cancer earlier, and they were able to do it at the stage shift, essentially, and it didn't impact mortality rates. And that's just really unacceptable. We need something that's probably going to detect it at least 5 years before symptoms even present. And that's tough, and that's a tough message. But, in terms of going to your doctor, you're right. If you're experiencing anything that's abnormal, and in ovarian, the symptoms are so vague, and they're symptoms that a lot of women have, frequent urination, bloating, feeling full quickly. Talk to your doctor, absolutely. But another thing that's important is to talk about family history. And have you had a history of cancer, and not just ovarian? It can be on the, the male or female side. So if you had prostate cancer in your family, have you had breast cancer, endometrial cancer, pancreatic cancer? Those are all questions that you can have with your doctor now, just thinking about that. Not everyone knows their history, and sometimes that's a conversation to have at the holidays. It's not a real fun one, but, I think about, like, my grandmother passed away from cancer. I'm not exactly sure what kind. No one seems to remember. I mean, it's just, those kinds of things. We hear that a lot. So those are the conversations you can have with your doctor. But screening is really difficult. And so we think we need a detection method that doesn't exist yet, or if it does, in a form that we don't know it.
Yeah, and that's the part that I think everyone gets very concerned about, is that, we talk about screening, but in this particular case, that's not there. Are there, and if so, what are there in terms of prevention measures? And maybe that's just, again, what you said about family history and knowing, but is there any more information that you guys are pulling together, researching on in terms of prevention?
Yes, absolutely. So that's kind of been our focus these last few years. We feel like, if we're not able to give people something right now in terms of symptoms or do this or do that, here are some things you can do. And one is knowing your family history. Genetic testing is also, if you have any of those, cancers in your family, you can get genetic testing, or you can get genetic testing anyway. But your doctor, talk to them about that. We offer a free genetic testing program on our website if you qualify. It's just a short little quiz that, asks you a few questions, and then you can get a full service free genetic test. So genes like BRCA1 and BRCA2 you probably heard of, and those are the types of genes that can confer risk. So that's important to know. There are surgeries that you can do, prospectively, if you have those genes. The other thing is something called opportunistic self-injectomy, which is a big word, but it just means that if you're going in for another pelvic surgery, like if you're having your tubes tied, a tubal ligation, don't have them tied, have them taken out. Because they've learned that the fallopian tubes, actually, if you're beyond your childbearing years and aren't planning to have children, then you can take your fallopian tubes out, and that's going to decrease your risk greatly. And there are other pelvic surgeries as well. So that's just a conversation to have with your doctor. And so those are two of the things that we've been talking to people about a lot: genetic testing and opportunistic self-injectomy.
Okay, yeah, that is a big word, but it's repeat that again a little bit slower so that folks can hear that one.
So opportunistic self-injectomy, and the opportunistic part is just saying if you're having another surgery. We're not suggesting that, average woman just walk in and say, I'd like my fallopian tubes taken out, if you don't have risk for, the disease. But if you're already having another surgery, and there are surgeries beyond the tubal ligation, you could be having some other type of pelvic surgery, they can take your tubes out. And it's really a very quick procedure and doesn't add much to the recovery time. I mean, it's really a fairly easy thing to do. And then it doesn't start. And if we can prevent it from starting, that's better than ever having it.
Yeah, but that's prevention. Yeah. Is if screening is not readily available or been determinative yet, then having the ability for prevention is critically important. Let me ask you another question. Sure. This is a global concern, and the organization has reached all over the world to spread the word and to provide the resources for women in this space. Is there, and this is kind of a two-part question, is there a place in the world where there's a higher incident rate? And then second to that is in the United States of America, are there any geographical concerns or not concerns, but any geographical data is the word I'm looking for, to talk about this in a more preventative way?
Well, there are definitely equity issues. And so anywhere you find that the care is not going to be as good as perhaps an urban city, for example, we definitely see an increase in rates. And that's concerning, because the type of doctor that you should see is a gynecologic oncologist. And it's been proven that women have better outcomes if they see a gynecologic oncologist. Unfortunately, in the United States, there are less than 2,000 gynecologic oncologists. So there's not going to be one in every town. And not everyone can travel. And that's the same around the world, of course. I mean, there's going to be countries that might not have a gynecologic oncologist. So that's a major concern and a huge equity issue, and something that we work every day to try to combat. We're always trying to, incentivize younger researchers to come into the field and younger clinicians to come into the field. So it is a problem. And there definitely are, and it's, as I said, the fifth leading cause of cancer death worldwide. There's about 325,000 cases, but that's not dispersed evenly, as you point out.
We're talking with Audra Moran, the president and CEO of the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. And we, again, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We talked about geography.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. We talked about geography. We talked about the economics of this. Where does age come into your research, into your work as it relates to awareness? And then, of course, the diagnosis that comes with this condition. Where does age play in this?
Well, it's typically diagnosed in women, postmenopausal women. So around age 63 is the average age, but it's not across the board. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very heterogeneous disease. So some young women get it, but it's a different type of ovarian cancer. And so but the majority, let's say the majority, is in postmenopausal women.
Okay. And so but then that goes back to what you were saying earlier about if you have any historical or any medical history in your family, that you you go in and you go through the process of the testing.
Absolutely. Like in BRCA, typically that's in younger women, and that's right. So you may have, a woman with a BRCA gene could have risk on either side of her family. So it's not just the mother's side, it's also the father's. And so if any of those cancers I mentioned are, in your family history, that's something to talk to your doctor about.
And that's why it's important to have those conversations. I get it better now because, a daughter could have a grandmother on her paternal side that had this that had a condition like this, that had ovarian cancer. Let me just call it as what it is. And
my grandfather with pancreatic cancer or prostate cancer, yes, absolutely. It's a kind of cluster that it could be in either side.
So it doesn't just go straight line down mom's side. We want to make sure that we're talking about that, having that conversation for any of our lineage. Got it. Okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. So this is not a partisan issue politically or socially. And frankly, economically, this is one of those things that strikes any one of us at any given time. But we know right now that there's a partisan conversation around funding from the federal government when it comes to medical or health care. We just saw that the Republicans in Congress blocked this latest bill, not because it made cuts, but that the cuts weren't deep enough when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. So my long-winded question is going somewhere, and that is, you're probably reading between the lines. How are you, if you are being impacted by any of the potential federal legislation that could impact the work that you guys do?
Well, we're fortunate to be, we're not fortunate to be, we're the only ovarian cancer organization with an office in Washington, D.C., and we do advocacy there. So I wish there were others, and there certainly are other groups that help and do other things, but we're on the ground every day, talking obviously to everyone about any potential cuts, because that's obviously going to impact, future research. And we feel very strongly that, we serve the whole country and the whole world really in terms of ovarian cancer, and we don't discriminate along party lines. So we just want the most money for funding that we can possibly get. So we're there every day, and we're advocating for that. We've joined several coalitions recently in terms of the funding cuts, and really trying to push for the fiscal year 2025 budget will be coming up soon. So we're really hopeful that we can restore some of the cuts. This is what we do, and we believe in it. We do a lot of action alerts where we ask our constituents to write to their congresspeople, their senators. And so we've done a lot of those recently. And, we've seen a huge increase this year in the applications that we receive. I mean, last year we received the most applications ever, which was about 200. And this year we've received 350. So we know that there's a need. And while we would love to be able to fill that need, we just can't. We give about, $8 to $9 million a year. So we're obviously advocating to definitely maintain anything, and we're always pushing to grow it. So we definitely want to maintain the federal funding that we already have.
Yeah. So to that end, who have been, and I guess it's fair to ask this question without putting you on the spot. I don't mean to do that, but there are allies I'm sure that you have in Washington, particularly as it relates to Congress, the House of Representatives and senators. Are there advocates that are there? Are there allies that are there that are behind the work that you're doing in support of the work and the funding that's additional funding that's required to continue the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. We've been very fortunate to have bipartisan support for the very reason that you and I talked about. Ovarian cancer doesn't discriminate among parties. And so we've definitely had bipartisan support. We have someone that we worked with for a long time who's actually an ovarian cancer survivor herself, Representative Bertha DeLaura. Mm-hmm. And she's wonderful. And, there's many wonderful people, but she just happens to be a survivor and so kind of has a unique perspective and often, helps us when we need a letter or whatever. And then we can almost always find someone to work with, on both sides. So that's important. Because again, we're not here to alienate anybody. We're not here to take sides. We're really just here to cure this disease.
Right. You've also no.
Enough said then.
You've also been very integral in the patient registry. If I read that correctly, tell us a little bit more about that and is it a federal data network? Help us put a little bit more light on those two areas.
And I'm fascinated by this topic. I'm sure that your listeners probably aren't as fascinated as I am. But yes, one of the things, so I won't geek out on you too much. But yeah, one of the issues is that, and this happens in so many disease states, there'll be a patient registry is so important. That's got patient reported outcomes in it. It's got, bio data. It's got blood work. It's got everything. Electronic medical records are amazing now, and you can have all the data in the world at your fingertips. The problem is that much of this data is siloed. And it's at, the individual institutions, and it's not shared. And that's not helpful, and especially with the advent of AI. AI needs big data. It needs large data sets. And so for the past year and a half, we have been on a crusade, I would call it, to create a patient registry that will unify all that data. And there's two parts to it. And again, I won't geek out on you and tell you the two parts. But basically, we're going to be asking patients to give us their information and to upload it themselves, which is empowering, I think, in its own. So many people that are diagnosed with this disease feel disempowered, disenfranchised because you might not meet another person with ovarian cancer in your town. I mean, it is a rare cancer. Despite most people know somebody with ovarian, right? But so we feel like giving people something to do. This is something you can do. You can help science. You can help yourself. You can help the future generation by giving us your data. And we're going to connect researchers around the world where they have kind of a storefront, essentially, where they can share what they have. So that way there's a lot of data issues, and institutions can't always share. But what you can do is put up a list of what you have. Then I'm making this very simple, but that's the other piece of it. So there'll be a registry for patients, and then there will be data that scientists can look at to see, oh, this person in Spain has, this data, and this person in the UK has this data. And then they can partner and collaborate, because that's really how we're going to cure this.
Yeah, sharing information. I know right now a lot of people are a little bit concerned about sharing information with the federal government as it relates to, the infamous conversation around Doge. But when it comes to healthcare in this space, with an organization like yours, I think it's definitely something that we have to be mindful of. And AI is kind of really revolutionizing some of the diagnosis. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen advances in so many other disease states already. I mean, breast cancer many cancers have, but sometimes it's about imaging and being able to look at imaging issues, imaging and see that millions of pieces of data, and AI can do that, whereas a human eye can't necessarily. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to aggregate as much ovarian cancer data as we can. We've been partnering with Microsoft for several years on our own, and they have an AI for Good lab, and they're just amazing. And what they do is we give the money to the researchers, and they offer what they call their compute power, which is, beyond my capability to explain to you, but it's, called Azure credits. And it's essentially what you need to conduct large AI, experiments. And so we've recently partnered with them on a very large international grant called an AI Accelerator Grant with 3 other sister organizations from around the world. And we just launched this about a week and a half ago on World Ovarian Cancer Day. So we're going to offer $1 million, and then Microsoft will do an in-kind donation of $1 million in compute dollars. And so we're really excited about this because we're going to bring researchers from around the world together, try to give them, a good amount of money and see what happens.
Well, I can hear a level of excitement and enthusiasm in your voice about the work that you're doing and where where we're headed with this, because it is something that touches us all. It's a nonpartisan issue. So last couple of questions. And I'll give them to you, and then you can. One of them is how people can find you, how people can potentially get involved, how they can potentially contribute whatever resources they may have to the overall effort is one. The other thing I'm curious about is, with that enthusiasm, what keeps you going, Audra?
Okay, all good questions. So obviously people can find us by just going to our website at ocrahope.org. And, money is always appreciated, donations. We are a private organization. We receive no federal funding. We raise all of our money that we give out. And so that's always a huge way to help. But obviously, if you're a survivor and you want to get involved, there's a lot of ways. We have a peer mentoring program so that you can mentor someone else, or you can have a mentor yourself. We have a program called Survivors Teaching Students, where we train survivors to go into medical schools and talk to medical schools about a disease that they may never even see. Because again, in being a rare cancer, not every doctor is going to see this case, and we want them to recognize, it immediately when someone talks about it. So those are a couple of ways. You can go and check out our genetic testing if you're concerned, and there's a lot of information on our site as well. But what keeps us going is really just we've seen so much progress in the last several years, and we can't lose that. We can't lose that momentum. And despite all that progress, it's still a 51% survival rate, 5 years out if you've been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and that's just not okay. And so that's what keeps us going, is that we need to impact that. We need to change that, and it's going to take big change. So we're ready. We're gearing up.
Absolutely. Well, I want to have you back to talk about this again, and talk about the work that you're doing, and to be a resource for you to continue to promote this message to anyone and everyone that can hear it. So we'll say that to you now, with the hopes that you'll come back in the future and we talk more about the work that you're doing at the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. President and CEO Audra Moran, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Have a fantastic day, and keep up the very, very great work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye now.
Yes, take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, guys, I mean that not gender-based, but us, folks, progressives and non-progressives. This is this is a concern and a condition that needs our support. But the biggest support tool that we can provide, based on what Audra said, is just having those conversations, talking with family members and the like. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. That's our Credo mobile and text line. We'll be right back.
Putting off that much-needed dental work, that back molar that zings whenever you drink something cold, or that old loose crown that migrates up and down like a yo-yo every time you eat. This is Dr. Anna Pellick from Total Dentistry and Palatine, and procrastination keeps me very busy. A simple filling becomes a root canal, or that chipped tooth breaks again and now it becomes a bridge or an implant. Time is the enemy, and dental problems don't get better on their own. So if you procrastinate because of anxiety, we have solutions. If you procrastinate because of cost, we work with insurance plans and have easy payment options. And if you procrastinate because you're too busy, we have early 6 a.m. appointments, late evening, and Saturday appointments, and even one-day treatment. So now that I've eliminated most excuses for not seeing us, stop procrastinating and join the many who tell us, why did I ever wait so long? So give us a call at 847-358-2477 or visit us at totaldentistry.org. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other.
Chicagoland, are you ready to head up to the northwest suburbs on Sunday, June 1st?
It's the 7th annual family-friendly Buffalo Grove Pride Parade. It all begins at 11 a.m. featuring 100 businesses, organizations, dance teams, musicians, bands, schools, and much more. The parade is geared for the LGBTQ community members and allies of all ages. This year's theme, Pride is Natural, highlights the normalcy of being an LGBTQ family in this time of great distress in our nation.
And this year's Grand Marshals, well, it's us. Yes, WCPT 820's own me, Scott Duff.
And me, Ellen Miller.
We're the hosts About Chicago. The Buffalo Grove Pride Parade will feature a special tribute to Balloons by Tommy's, late great owner, with an incredible display of rainbow balloons.
The Buffalo Grove Pride Parade, the family-friendly Pride Parade filled with magical giveaways for all, is Sunday, June 1st at 11 a.m.
Information and map can be found at pintoprideproject.com. See you there.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Mostly cloudy skies here for today with a high in the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 48. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, high 59 degrees. Wednesday, another chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 56. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 46.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressive, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. An important conversation that we had with Audra Moran, who is the president and CEO, the president and CEO of the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance, and they're doing great work. They are an organization that forces us to talk about something that we don't want to talk about. And I know that with our next guest, we're going to have a conversation in that space. So let's welcome to the show political strategist and becoming a new road dog, Mike Nellis. Good morning, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, I saw some really interesting comments that you made this past week about a couple things that took place, but and we'll get to that in a moment. But I kind of wanted to kick off on what I talked about earlier in the show, and that's where we are currently with this most recent bit of information and knowledge around former President Joe Biden. And I like what you had to say, similar to what I'm saying about our conversation needs to be a little bit different in this space. And you, in your article on Substack, posted, "Let Joe Biden rest." And I couldn't agree more than that. Let's chat about this new revelation, and let's talk about why that's where we need to course ourselves at this current time.
Sure. The entire conversation around Joe Biden has been frustrating me for really since the debate. And, obviously, first thing, let's just say this is, it's a very serious advanced form of cancer. I think I saw somewhere it's like 25-30% chance to pull through. And obviously, he's at an advanced stage. So, I'm praying for him. I'm praying for his family. I got really hot under the collar yesterday.
You too.
Because I thought, I just saw so many people in the pro-Biden camp and people in the anti-Biden camp who were just trying to dunk on each other over cancer diagnosis, and I can't put up with garbage like that, because he's a human being, and even if you like him, even if you hate him, he spent his entire life dedicated to making this country better, and he could have done literally anything else with his life, and he deserves a modicum of respect for that. And I mean, this, you've had me on your show. I'm one of the first people to tell you, there's a necessary conversation that has to happen about what the Democratic Party did wrong in 24 and how we're different going forward to get back.
Right.
But Joe Biden getting cancer is not a moment to dunk on our political opponents. I don't care what side you're on. So I find it really gross, and all I want is for him to have a chance to rest and spend whatever time he has left with his family. That's all that I want for him.
Me too. And one of the reasons that I took that right out of the gate this morning is to say, listen, we as progressive liberal Democrats, however we label ourselves and whatever we label ourselves, the one thing that we can't do is go down the rabbit hole. I said, if you're going to go down a rabbit hole this morning or during this time, with this announcement, go down the rabbit hole of positivity and sending good vibes out to President Biden, to Joe Biden, Dr. Joe Biden, and to the family, because they deserve it. And that is the rabbit hole you go down. Don't go down the other one where all this crazy garbage is being thrown out. And by people who that's not a question of should know better, they know better. They're doing it for clicks. They're doing it for recognition. They're doing it to stroke their own ego, and some of the things that are out there. That's my assessment. So to the title of your article, so well titled, "Let Joe Biden Rest." And if you're going to send something out, send out something that's positive and encouraging, because that garbage will come back on you, I believe, if you don't. If you believe in what's the word?
Karma.
Right. So, that's exactly where we need to be. And I knew that you and I would be in the same in the same camp, on this conversation.
Yeah, well, it's a decency thing, my friend. Like you want to be a decent person. I mean,
I said humanity.
If Donald Trump got diagnosed with cancer tomorrow, I'd say the same.
That's what
same damn thing, right? I mean, like, look, I said a prayer when Donald Trump was shot. I did. And because I don't want anything bad to happen to him, as much as I don't like him and I see the damage that he does, I don't want that. But there's something you said a moment ago. You said, like, Joe Biden deserves. But let's talk about what Joe Biden has earned. Because that's the way I view it. Like, there's a modicum of respect that is just earned by being willing to serve, willing to be the president of the United States, willing to be the vice president to Barack Obama. Like, he's had so many moments where he could have hung up his hat and moved on. By the way, not to mention, just days after he was elected to the United States Senate, like his wife and he lost 2 kids, I think, in the car crash, right, or at least one. And he's just gone through so much. What happened with Bo, what's going on with Hunter? Like, we don't need to. When there's an open wound, you don't need to stick your finger in it.
Not at all.
Right? You just don't. And I don't want a Democratic Party. I don't want a Republican Party that's like this either, but they are. I don't want a Democratic Party that becomes coarse in the way that the Republican Party has become coarse, and we get so far away from solving any problems that actually improve people's lives. And that's what I don't want. We got to get tougher, yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt. But
not at the more value.
Not at that. And I think that's the threading of the needle that not only should, but actually can happen. Mayor Johnson said this a couple weeks ago at our anniversary, that it's our opportunity and responsibility to take back and reclaim humanity. So we can do that and be tough as nails and have policy that works for all of our age groups and incorporates all the people in our community, and not just the blue community, but the entire country. That's the part that has to happen, and the threading of the needle starts with us reclaiming what you said, the decency and the humanity. And Joe Biden has earned it globally. He's earned it. And so, I didn't pay attention to a lot of the news late yesterday because I wanted to kind of just put my own thoughts together in this space. But kudos to you. For that, because that's the voice. That's what my voice is saying and will continue to say. He's earned this. Let the man rest. And if you're going to do anything, send good vibes out to the universe. Don't send out any of the garbage and go down that rabbit hole. So, Mike Nellis, man.
Look, we're all. Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go.
No, I was gonna say, look, we're all human beings, and we all. I always ask the question when I sat in your chair, I asked everybody who I interviewed, like, what radicalized you? And the question of what radicalized you really means, like, why did you get into this? Like, why do you care? Because a lot of people don't care. They're too busy trying to live their own lives. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, like, we got into this for a particular reason. Like, mine was protesting the Iraq war and watching the Republicans try to cut Social Security and Medicare under the Bush administration. And, like, those two things radicalized me. I don't want to lose the reason I got into this, which was to help people. I just don't. And I think way too many people are, given the coarseness of our politics in the last decade.
Well, and then the reason that's so important, and to your point about why we have these voices and why we're using them, is that I want to be someone that's a resource for people who are out there in a disparate, siloed life. I know from my travels all over this country, I'm one of the few people. Let me ask you this question, Mike. How many people do you know, that you personally know, that have visited and spent time in all 50 of the states of the United States?
Probably just one. It's my wife, believe it or not.
Well, I'm number 2 because I'm one of the other people. Right. The reason I say that in terms of what you just said about, why we do this and why we're taking such importance of this, is that I've gone to different parts of the country where I've seen people who are in communities that don't look like me, but I don't really care, because I recognize that those people want the same thing that people that are in other communities want, and that's the ability to live their lives in a great, wholesome, wonderful way and go forward. Now, I'm not painting a broad brush over this. There's some folks out there who are out of their damn minds and acting crazy. So that part is also part of the awareness. But I also know that people want to be. They don't want to be in a scenario where they're not included in how we move forward, and they want to be made to feel like or be included in this conversation. So for me, it's important to let people know, and that's why I love what Mayor Johnson said about reclaiming our humanity. That a lot of the success that we have going forward is going to start with that. and blending into that the policy decisions that have to be made with the right people in the right places to get those things done. I got to ask you a question about something that you spoke about this past week about Brian Kemp not running down in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Did that surprise you? Where did you go in that conversation? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was not surprised that Brian Kemp didn't want to run, but I jumped immediately into like what that meant, because it's kind of hard for a sitting governor and somebody who's as ambitious, and he's younger than I think the average politician, but he's not a young man. But I think two things. Like, he wants to run for president of the United States, and I think he views himself as someone who can rein in and reshape the Republican Party back to a place where he views it should be, which is still, very, very, very far to the right, but maybe a little bit more decent. So I'll give him some credit on that. But then the second thing is, Brian Kemp doesn't want to run at a time when he has to defend Donald Trump's record, because everything's more expensive. The tariffs are a mess. They're trying to gut Medicaid and Medicare with this GOP budget. If he runs right now, he's going to have to defend all of that. And we're looking at a situation where Democrats are winning basically, every, or at least overperforming in every major election that's been happening this year. When we flipped the Omaha mayor's race last week, and I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, I can tell you, because I worked on Jean Stothard, who's the current mayor and outgoing mayor. I worked on her first race, and she was unstoppable. And then in her last couple elections, she's been gaining in her margin. Like, she won the last race by 20 points. And so nobody believed that John Ewing, the Democrat, could beat her, and he whooped her by double digits, by 10, 12 points. And that was considered unheard of. So I think that's the drag that Republicans are seeing right now. Like, people are frustrated, and then Democrats are fired up
is having
and
to
taking
carry
every
that
opportunity they can to make their voice heard.
Is having to carry that bucket of water for Donald Trump because they can't get around it.
So if you're Brian Kemp, and you're running against John Ossoff, who in my opinion is one of the better talents that we have in the Democratic Party, and Ossoff is raising an unbelievable amount of money, and Donald Trump is an albatross, why would you do that when you could just take a decent chance at running for president, which is a crapshoot, but you take it anyway?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And that's the political calculation that a lot of Republicans are going to have to face. I think that Democrats have got to take advantage of this opportunity. That it's about momentum. I use a sports analogy. The momentum is the momentum based on wins in these elections that we shouldn't be performing as well as we are in speaks largely to the message can get through if the message is right. Yeah. And that's and part of the message is, I said this so many times, I make this really simple language. It cannot be that Republicans are stinky. It has to be Republicans are stinky, and here's what we're going to do, why we're going to do it, and how it's going to impact your life, your pocketbook, your well-being. It can't just be Republicans are stinky anymore, because that hasn't worked. It's not going to work going forward. It has got to be the other side of that message. And I think that that's what a lot of the folks are doing that are winning these elections, that predicting why I shouldn't have won.
Have you seen this mail piece that John Ewing put out, the Democrat who won the mayor's race? So Jean Stothard, the Republican, went big on anti-trans issues and painting John Ewing in the same way that Donald Trump tried to do to Kamala Harris in the last election. Mm-hmm. And he put out a mail piece and other ads that was basically like, Jean Stothard's focused on potties, I'm focused on fixing potholes. And that's the perfect frame. It's frame them as weird for wanting to focus on cultural issues, for not doing anything to improve your life, and pivot right back to what you're going to do. In Omaha, the roads are an absolute mess. I know. I travel there to visit my folks all the time. And, honestly, it resonated with me. I almost kicked their money when I saw it a couple of days before the election. But that's what it is. People, the best version of our politics is our elected officials getting stuff done that improves your daily lives. It's your alderman helping to put a stop sign down the street because you're worried about the traffic and your kids crossing the street. That's what government should be. And we've gotten so far away from that on both sides, I think. But, that's a great way to hit Republicans. It's flip it right back on them and make sure we remind them how weird they are.
Yeah, and the thing that we can't allow to happen messaging-wise is we can't allow this conversation to be too much about both sides do it. We have to draw a line and say, this is why we're different. There may be a consensus on this topic, but here's why we approach it the way that we do. I'm dead set on this because I've seen it work, which probably proves that it's right. This is why we're different. This is what we're going to do differently, and here's how it's going to impact you in a different way. And I like the piece that you're talking about because it's a simple message. It's not complicated, and don't waste money in areas where there's not some maybe already fertile ground when it comes to how they want to spend money going forward. You talked about this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this this Walmart piece, this Walmart thing, and Walmart saying that they're, as the world's largest retailer, and I covered this a little bit earlier, that the tariffs are too high, and it will result in prices going up, and they're the biggest retailer, so their message is pretty doggone important. And that I want to see other businesses, and this is where I believe the Democrats have another opportunity, is to rally the businesses that are speaking to the fact that the tariffs are going to, in the way that they're being used, they're already having impact. They're going to have even further impact. More businesses need to speak to that. And you had a great message in that space around Walmart and what they're saying.
Yeah. Well, let's start here. Donald Trump increased tariffs on China by 140% or something like that, and then lowered them last week to 30%, and then acted like he just cured cancer. Like everything from China is still going to be 30% more expensive at a time when he promised to get grocery prices and everything else down on day one. I mean, that promise feels like a million years ago, but that's what he promised to do in his very first post-win interviews, get everything down on day one. So that's number one. Number two, Donald Trump said, if we pass these tariffs, China pays the tariffs. You don't pay the tariffs, like China pays them. Well, now Walmart's going, no, we're paying the tariffs, and we're going to pass it on to the consumers, which is exactly what the Democrats said was going to happen. If you do stupid, ill-planned, and ill-timed tariffs, this is exactly what's going to happen. And then on top of that, Donald Trump is going to come out and go, well, you know what, Walmart, you should eat the tariffs, as if major corporations are ever going to eat their profit margin. And you would think a businessman like Donald Trump would know that. Like, Walmart has, whether I like it or not, Walmart has a fiduciary responsibility to their investors to make the most amount of money possible. So if they think that people can afford it, they're going to help them afford it. And suddenly in that moment, Donald Trump becomes a raging socialist in favor of price controls. And I can't get over it. So it's not a cohesive economic plan. It's not a good agenda, and it's just a bunch of bluster. I mean, we started last week with Donald Trump claiming that he had solved the tariff crisis that he created and signing an executive order on prescription drugs that isn't going to do anything, but he claims it's going to get prescription drug prices down 90%. So that's the barometer that he set. If my drug prices don't go down 90%, I'm going to be furious.
Yeah, and that's another messaging point. I mean, you've worked for folks, primarily that you've counseled and worked with have been running for a more center or left office or running that way. But at the end of the day, that message right there, if they're not down by that percentage point, then everybody should be PO'd about it. The question is going to be, how many people are going to actually be that way and they're going to deliver and show up in this next cycle? So, which leads me to the next, and we're talking with Mike Nellis, political strategist. That leads me to this next question. And you and I, we've talked about this for a lot in terms of how and where Democrats have to be in messaging and so forth and so on. I think that as people ask the Democrats to do more and do things differently, one of the things that they've got to do, in addition to the policy conversation and having a more vibrant message that reaches a larger number of people, is that when they're on any of the talk shows, any of them, I don't care who it is, if it's Rachel or if it's Kristen Welker or if it's Tur or if they go on Fox, they have to be prepared to do this. When they get asked a dumb A question or a question that might seem reasonable, that they answer that question and then also put some of the responsibility for how things have happened messaging-wise back on that very media outlet. And I think that, I'll give a good example. When Chris Murphy was on Kristen Welker's show and was asked about what the Dems could have been doing differently and the fault that's at the feet of the Democrats, he should have pivoted and said, yes, we are responsible for certain elements, and so are you, because you spent a lot of your time not talking about the ills of Donald Trump in a very cogent manner. Democrats have got to be prepared to walk and chew gum in that space. Yes, we own some of this, but you guys have to as well. And I guarantee you, Mike, the more that they put reporters and journalists and interviewers on their heels in the moment, the better when it comes to people hearing that message.
Well, look, what Republicans do is it's called working the ref, right? Like it's like a football coach breathing down the neck of the sideline judge. And they're just screaming and they're hoping that they can get a better series of rules or calls for themselves. And like Republicans play that game, and then Democrats are super nice and we're super grateful for the airtime. So like I agree with that critique maybe to a certain point, but I think it's more important that when Democrats get airtime, whether it be on traditional cable news, on the radio, when they're doing a YouTube show or a podcast or something like that, that they just have a very simple, cohesive message. Because the divide in our politics right now is between Donald Trump shouting about fixing the border and, drugs going down 90%, which is ridiculous, and stuff that he isn't delivering. And then the reverse side of that is the Democratic Party going, well, if we pass the blah, blah, blah act that I co-authored, then in 6 months you can file 72 Form B with the IRS and get a $40 tax rebate.
Right.
And so it's like we're so far away from being able to just have simple stuff. And I would borrow a page from Bernie Sanders, right? Like, let's focus on, if we can't say what we're going to do in like 7 words or less, we shouldn't be talking about it. Doesn't mean that the plan behind it isn't complicated, because government is complicated and we don't have to dumb stuff down in order to make a difference in people's lives. But folks have short attention spans because they're being inundated. And I tell my clients all the time, the median voter that you need to reach is likely to be like a single parent working a couple of jobs, and they're lucky if they can watch Monday Night Football, let alone check their Twitter account or watch you on cable news. So the way that they experience you is in a 7-second soundbite, and you need to be able to go, hi, I'm so-and-so running for office, and I'm going to lower your taxes. Yeah. And I'm going to fix the roads, like Gretchen Whitmer talks about all the time in Michigan.
I think that the way that what that has to be approached is this. Just because I don't think they should leave the topic alone. They should work. Our messaging has to be worked on to make it shorter. You and I both can get caught up in talking about it because we're passionate about these things. But I think that whatever the topic is, sit and pick the top 10 and go, okay, how do we make this a 6-second message, and just go right down the line and make that be the ongoing regular conversation. Because all these items are important, or some are more than others. But I think that's the thing that you and I have the opportunity to do as messengers, is to get that into the lexicon of our leaders. Mike, I got a question to ask. Go ahead.
Wait, before you ask the next question, can I add something to this too?
Yeah.
Because an important part of your point of the media critique is that Democrats, especially in this last election, I think broadly in my life in the post-Bush era, have been seen as the establishment, right? And so in this last election, we defended the entirety of the way that society is working from a governmental standpoint, from a media standpoint, from a political standpoint. And a lot of people are seeing a system that didn't work. So you want Democrats to go on to talk about how the media is failing us, which I think is fine and makes sense. But what we need to make sure that happens even when we take power again is that we are not taking power and then rebuilding a system of government and a system of society that Donald Trump is breaking, but that we're building something new because it isn't working for the vast majority of people, whether it be cultural institutions, media institutions, Hollywood, politics, Democratic Party, Republican Party. It isn't working for people. So we have to be really careful about that, because Trump thrives as what I would call a perceived outsider. I mean, he controls and dominates the largest political party in the country right now, which is the Republican Party. And he acts like an outsider, though, and claims he's breaking a system. And he is, but he's doing it to put money in his pocket. When we come back into power, we need to make sure that we have a clear critique of the system, and then we use it to improve people's lives.
Yeah,
and the opportunity is there. He's given it to us.
Without a doubt. And that's you made that point earlier, as did I. Breaking it is fine if you have a plan to fix it. If you don't have a plan to fix it, then you got to change it. You have to shave it off, but you don't break it. That's irresponsible, and the country doesn't need to see that, and doesn't have the temperament for further breaking. We have to repair. We have to take the bad, get rid of that, fix that which is good, and make it stronger. And with that, take the message to Americans that say, "See, we told you this is what we would do in fixing things." But I got to ask you this question. I wanted to know if when you got home, like last Thursday or Friday before the weekend showed up, did you have like even a propeller plane in your front yard or on your street? Did you have a $400 million plane that a government dropped off from Mike Nellis?
No, but the Qatari government and I aren't close. So
yeah, wow, that to me was one of the most recent epitomes of how awful. But to your point, and so many others, he's been on this. This is what I'm going to do for you, America. But in fact, I'm lining my pockets. I've got extra pockets that I'm just throwing stuff in, and how obvious is that? And there's a lot of people just aren't taking the time to slow down and go, that's wrong. Some Republicans did step up, but that's their job. They don't get a medal for stepping up and saying what they need to say.
No, they don't. And it actually tells you something about the political terrain for what is essentially a $400 million bribe from a foreign government to Donald Trump. Because if Ted Cruz comes out and says you've done something wrong, you've done something wrong. Because Cruz has put up with every single thing that Donald Trump has put up with, calling his wife ugly,
talking about his father.
Dad killed JFK.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So it's like, but the $400 million plane, that's where you draw the line, apparently. So you got to love that.
Yeah.
But it's like Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. I believe that to my core, and there's certain things that he does that are very hard to explain. Like when I talk to voters and when I try to put campaign plans together, it's hard to explain to them that Donald Trump is selling a $100,000 gold watch. That's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It's hard for me to explain what a meme coin is and why Donald Trump is profiting millions of dollars off of a meme coin. But it's really easy for me to go, Donald Trump's getting a $400 million plane from the Qatari government, and he plans on keeping it after he's out of office. Very simple. And so that's how stupid he thinks the American people are.
Yep.
That's how much contempt he has for them, that he thought he could get away with this without even the Republican Party breaking. And the Republican Party is breaking. I think that this is breaking through in a way that has any Republican on the ballot in 2026 terrified of what it means.
And it goes back to what we said earlier about why some of these elections are not some, all of them are elections. The Dems just have to play it right. Mike, thanks for being with us this morning. Happy Monday to you. And Labor Day, listen to me. Memorial Day is right around the corner. Make it a great week. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, Mike. Be well. Bye now. Mike Nellis, guys, political strategist and guy that's got an opinion about a little bit of everything. But Mike is definitely well-versed in so many areas when it comes to political strategy and helping Democrats do the right thing going forward and getting reelected and back in power. So just to keep that conversation going. We've come to the end of the show. I'm so glad we had this time together. I'm not going to get in trouble with Carol Burnett and all those folks, but great show from the past. Covered a lot today. Thanks to Mike for being with us this morning. Thank you also to Audra Moran, the CEO of the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. Check out the work that they're doing there and make it a point to try to get involved in what they're doing in this very critical area. All right, guys, music playing. Devin says, shut up. That's his way of saying it to me. What can I tell you? Take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.